a legal officer under the umbrella of the TTPS, Officer Ali, joins me. Corporal Ali, always a pleasure to have you. You know, I mean, it's been a hectic week. Lots would have transpired, and we'll get into some of the, the stories that would have made the news cycle. But before we get there, it's going to be a long weekend, and I want to at least give you the opportunity to give some more advice as it pertains to fireworks safety. And as always, great to see you. Welcome. Good morning.
Well, thank you very much, Debbie. You know, consecutive weeks.
Yes.
You know, it's indeed a pleasure and honor to be as always. And thanks to you and the CNCC family. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago and those who may be visiting and viewing the program. JW, let me begin, on a positive note by, wishing the national community Shubh Diwali. I know that we are in the period leading up to Diwali, and, the festivity is very high. And, I ask for respect. And most importantly, to engage your question, or the engagement with reference to the responsibility that resides with all of us. And, I'll immediately take us to the Summary Offences Act, just as a gentle reminder that the use of fireworks, and fireworks, may I say, has been caught in the definition of explosives. That's significant. Fireworks being caught in the definition of explosives, and there are criminal offences within our law books, albeit the fines are not as heavy as one would be expecting, but there are criminal offences. And for those who want to read further, let's just look at Section 99, Section 100, and Section 101, so that we can be properly educated with reference to the use of fireworks. In simplicity, the towns and the boroughs, it's a no-no for use of fireworks. Additionally, on the streets, public roads, it's also a no-no for the use of fireworks. And if you have to use fireworks within the public road or in a town or borough, the instructions are very clear by law that you must be guided by an order issued by the Commissioner of Police or a superintendent authorized by him, made pursuant to regulations under the hands of the Homeland Minister. So very significant issues. We have grown in a society that we have taken things, JW, lightly, but to only stop and check, realize we may be contravening the law.
Officer Ali, I always wanted to ask, is it that when we have these discussions, it's more of a stern warning? Because I know there are laws on the books, but the next part of it and the equation will always be enforcement.
Yes.
Do you know, could you recall, anybody was ever charged for letting off fireworks in an urban space? People who ran afoul of this particular mandate of fireworks. I mean, do the officers have the tenacity, the wherewithal to really pursue these folks, especially with other really more serious crimes about the place? Excellent
question, JW. And perhaps you've taken me, I haven't signaled to the national community yet. I'm in transition to another office, looking at response and policy where law enforcement is concerned. And I'm happy that you asked that question, because while I don't have the statistics to indicate how many persons may have been arrested and charged or even spoken to, you are right in terms of the response to enforce the law. And hence why I indicated before that sometimes we are doing things but not recognizing that we are in breach of the law. How would you know that you're in breach of the law? Only when the law enforcement agencies move to tell you that you have committed a criminal offense. So I think it's excellent that you have raised that this morning, and I'll use this opportunity to urge my law enforcement colleagues. I'll urge them to recognize within the law books the issue of fireworks and the use of fireworks. And may I say, under the state of emergency regulations, explosives is defined there as well. So there's a lot of significance with reference and a lot of correlation in terms of what we are talking about. But I'm urging them to look at it, respond to it, and take the appropriate actions. And I'll tell you why I haven't discussed the consequences, GW. I think it's obvious to everyone. The consequences, or what the mischief the law is trying to protect. We have heard about the animals. We have heard about the elderly persons. Wow. But more importantly, fires.
Fires, yeah.
And hence why you have these matters regulated, so that if you're going to have any substantial use of fireworks, you must have the support system in place. And may I say as well that while I spoke about the borough and the town, and even the streets, but the borough and town is concerned, even 2 miles from the borders of the borough and the town. So you're even extending further. And even on the streets, 60 feet from a street or a public road. So very, very serious issue. But thank you very much for opening that enforcement issue.
Indeed. Well said. And obviously it's one that, again, with this long weekend and with the Diwali celebrations where it's customary to have fireworks as part of it, we ask people to just be a little more mindful. You know, we look at the murder spike and the uptick, and it's so heartbreaking because when we look at the overall statistic, it's way less compared to last year. And officers obviously can't be in every corner and every crevice and gully. But the reality is, over the last couple of days, we have seen an uptick. What's the overall strategic approach? And when we see some of these murders, many do not know what happens on the back end in terms of the investigations, if people are really brought before the courts to answer for such heinous crimes. Give us the details as to the collective approach for this recent spike.
Well, GW, this sounds like, very, coincidental or deja vu, whichever one we want to look at it. Last week, a similar question came last week from your good self, with the upsurge in crime, murders last week. And we are seeing, and not to direct effort to the Brasso and to the Maloney area. Where,
and children too,
And I'm not going to indicate that. That is the troubling part where our nation's children are being impacted one way or the other. In relation to response, I think that that response to crime and criminality, I will respectfully say that while a lot is being done, there's a lot more to be done. And a lot more to be done in the context of really reviewing our response to crime and criminality in a 360 context. And I'll tell you why I'm saying our response to crime and criminality. Here it is, we have children who may have been impacted. And, I like to use this platform, JW, to make a very salient but strong statement this morning. That if you have children being impacted by crime and criminality, is it that the Children's Authority are interested or sufficiently interested to find out whether a child may have been exposed to crime and criminality, whether a child may have been accompanying a criminal, just to make sure that we are doing a diligent check to ensure that when we see our children impacted, it is not a situation where that child may have been exposed or accompanying a criminal where now they are creating a situation for conflict. So this is the sort of thinking in my respectful view, policy-wise, that when we are looking at crime and criminality, not only from a detection and prosecution context, but looking at the other frills, and in this case, just by way of example, really determining the children that are impacted. Who are they? Who are they in the presence of? Are they in need of care and protection? Because it may have meant that probably an early intervention may have assisted not only the children, but that family.
How close do you all work at the TTPS with the Children's Authority? Is there an intimate relationship there, a passing of information, a cross-fertilization, as it were? Well,
there should be a great relationship. There should. To say this morning whether, in fact, there's an efficient and effective relationship, I'm not in a position to say. Only the persons who are entrusted to have that engagement will be able to measure that level of engagement. But just looking at the reports, one would have expected that if there was, in fact, an intervention, definitely that would have made the headlines, that the Children's Authority may have become interested in what it is transpiring in those communities. And this is in no way being prejudicial to the Children's Authority, but opening the door for the respective stakeholders. Remember, JW, we have spoken about crime response. It's not a TTPS thing alone.
It's everybody.
It has to be a holistic, so there may be a requirement or a need for other agencies to step in to lend that support. And that's the point I'm looking to drive home. And I'm not saying that those children in Maloney and Brasso may have been a situation where they're in need of care and protection, but at least let us get in and do a screening to determine so that we can get a better understanding of the matter.
Due diligence, as it were.
Excellent.
As we wrap things up in the seconds that remain, any advice to those looking on going into this long weekend?
Well, I'd just like to end where we begin, JW, that, while it's a period of observance, from a religious context, some, festivity, we'll be moving around the nation's road, going to family and friends over the long weekend. I'm urging persons to be responsible on the nation roads as well. Be responsible in how you enjoy. Be reminded of the regulation in relation and the laws in relation to the use of fireworks. And, I hope and pray that the decision makers, will really sit down and really look at the response to crime and criminality in a very critical, decisive, and all-round capacity. It's the only way we can go forward, JW. But as always, I'm there to support and give my best to Trinidad and Tobago, and I urge you to do the same.
Thank you so much, and I will. Officer Ali, all the best.
Sure.
That's right, legal officer under the umbrella of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Officer Zahir Ali, touching base as we make our way to the 7 a.m. news update, and we come back after 7 with Johansi and some information from the chamber. The big awards is around the corner. See you soon.